Please welcome to the stage Jan Sramek, founder and CEO of California Forever, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Karen Breslau.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, Jan.
Good morning, afternoon.
So we're going to have a little change of pace here. We're going to go from the artificial to the very real and to real estate. I think most of the people in this room, I feel pretty safe in saying, have heard something, a thing or two about California Forever. Your project burst into the headlines last summer when you were revealed to be the person behind a series of huge and mysterious land purchases in Solano County. And you're going to take that land that you bought over the past 6 years, and you're going to build a new city, a sustainable, walkable new city from scratch on the outskirts of the Bay Area.
That's right.
That's the plan. Your investors include some of the biggest names in tech, Reid Hoffman, who Emily just interviewed, Michael Moritz, Mark Andreessen, Patrick Collison, Lorene Powell Jobs, just to name a few. People have a lot of questions about this project.
I bet.
A lot. And we're gonna get to a lot of them today. But before we do that, we're gonna take a quick poll, okay?
All right.
So everybody get ready. We wanna see where the audience is at on the idea of a new city, a sustainable new city in Solano County. So get ready for the question. It is, what was your initial reaction to California Forever's plans for a new sustainable city in Solano County? So while we figure that out, while we hear from all of you, Jan, why don't you start and just tell us what it is you want to build. What is this about?
We are building a...
and we've got some video that people should be able to see.
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is we're trying to do two things at the same time. And the first one is Solano County is this really spectacular place at the edge of the Bay Area. Many of the people in the audience probably know it, or they've driven through it on the way to Napa or Tahoe. But over the last 20 years, it really hasn't received its fair share of the prosperity in the Bay Area. And so it has the largest number of people who are super commuters. There's many people there who will commute 3 hours every day for work. It hasn't received its share of the jobs and of the entertainment and tax dollars. And at the same time, we're trying to make sure that the Bay Area remains this place of innovation and creation for the next 50 years. And Gary here just was talking about housing, and I think that the Bay Area is at the risk of becoming the greatest squandering of economic opportunity in the history of mankind. And I don't say that lightly. Because we have the situation where all of the companies want to build here, all of the people want to come here, all the innovation is happening. There's billions of dollars of capital waiting to build homes and offices and factories and all of the things. The whole world is trying to be Silicon Valley and the Bay Area, and all we have to do is build more housing. That's it. And whenever in the history of America we had a city like this, whether that was New York or whether that was Chicago, Americans from all over the country were moving in to build a better life for their families. And this is the first time in the history of America where the place of opportunity in the country is losing families, and particularly working families, because teachers and nurses can't afford to live here. And so California is no longer working for working families, and I think that's just really sad, and I think it's time that we do something about it.
Okay, so that's the pitch. Let's see. Do we have our results yet? Okay. Let's see.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad. All right. So, intrigued by the innovation, 48%. Concerned about secrecy and tactics, we'll be talking about that, 30%. Ready to move in, get your contacts to Jan. And opposed to the idea, like there, a very, very small minority. So, I'm going to say that you have tapped into something, right, that people are intrigued by, right? They want housing. I guess the question is the how and the where, right?
Yeah.
You have selected a place that is about 60 miles northeast of here. Nobody asked you come and build us a city. You decided to do it. You did it at tremendous scale. We're going to talk about the land acquisition, but over the course of several years, 6 years, you purchased through a series of entities 62,000 acres of agricultural land. And that is, just for reference, more than twice the surface area of San Francisco.
That's right.
Okay. So how did you come up with this idea? And why at such immense scale?
I moved to the Bay Area about 10 years ago, and I had this reaction of loving it for all of the reasons that everyone loves the Bay Area, but this immediate shock of how is it that people are fighting? I mean, this was the time when people were throwing rocks at Google buses and arguing over cost of housing because we created this insane tournament of we have a fixed number of homes that's growing at a pace of maybe 1% a year. And so every newcomer here is fighting over those homes with the people who are here, which is insane. If you tried to design a way to make people fight and not like each other, this is what you would do. This is exactly what you would do. And then we are surprised that there's this breakdown of community and social fabric, and tech isn't popular. It's because it's not the fault of tech. It's the fault of California's housing policy, which is no longer working. And so I try to work on this and by building more housing in existing cities, what people would call infill. How do we build more homes in the existing neighborhoods? And the depressing conclusion of that work after about a year was that this was going to be an important part of the solution, and the California EMBs have done a spectacular job working on it, but it was never going to be enough to dig ourselves out of the hole that we are in. California, according to the official state figures, is missing about 2.5 million homes. And we are not, in the last 8 years, we've made zero difference in that. We missed 2.5 million homes 8 years ago, and we miss them today, to even be on par with the second worst state in the country for how many homes we have. And so I felt a new solution was needed, and then I got to know Solano County because I used to come fishing out there, and it was a different set of problems, but a set of problems that we could fix with the similar idea, where they didn't have jobs. There was lack of tax revenue. There was lack of opportunity. I mean, I think Chris Rico is sitting here somewhere in the audience. He's the CEO of the Solano Economic Development Corporation. Solano County has been trying to get major employers to come to Solano County for the last 20 years, but because there isn't a major center, it hasn't happened. Meanwhile, like crazy people, we have all of these good-paying jobs in the Bay Area, and we are sending them to Texas. Why? Why? It makes no sense. If you ask any company in the Bay Area, would you rather have, if you needed a cheaper location where maybe the people who work in all kinds of functions where they can't afford to live in Palo Alto or San Francisco, but would you rather have them an hour away by car, or would you rather have them 6-hour nightmare of Uber, TSA, airport, delayed plane, Uber, get to Austin? That's a no-brainer. We can keep these jobs in California, and we've just failed at the policy level to plan for it. I think this is a win for Solano County, it is a win for the Bay Area, it is a win for California, and it's a win for America, because the innovation engine here is special, and the fact that we are throttling it is insane.
Okay, so this is a housing and economic development remedy. It's playing well in the room. It is playing, I would say, less well in Solano County. And
depends who you ask.
Okay, that is true. So YIMBY is yes in my backyard.
Yep.
And what you've said is, I don't even know how to pronounce it, but yes in your backyard.
Well, yes in my backyard, because I'll be moving in the first house.
Okay.
But other than that, we've said yes near you. And in fact, what a lot of the supporters in Solano County really like about this is that we've purchased the property, as you know, in an area that has very low agricultural values, very low ecological values. The US government you've seen these maps. The US government in 1960s said, this is a place where we should build a new community. The Association of Bay Area Governments in 1970 said that. We then just forgot about it for 40 years. And so a lot of the people in Solano County will say, this is exactly where we should be building, because our cities, we like the character of those cities. We like the size of them. We don't want them to just continue sprawling out. You guys are going to come here and bring all of this investment, all of these jobs, all of this entertainment, and put it 15 minutes away from us and build a new type of a community that's much more walkable, where my kids can live, and then I can have a 15-minute commute, but you're not going to come into my community and completely change it. people are over the moon. Not everyone, but a lot of people.
And we should say this is not the proverbial, tech utopia. This is not a crypto haven. We're not seasteading.
Yeah.
This is a new urbanist design, which is row houses. It's quite dense. It's intended to be walkable. But I think very few people are anywhere who know anything about housing in California are going to say, no more housing. We're against it.
Yep.
It is a question or why. We get it. The question, I think, is the how. And you operated in the utmost secrecy in the early years of your project. You purchased properties, some of which were on the market, and then some which were not. And you made offers through a representative at rates that were far above market. Many people opted to sell. You amassed this enormous holding, and some did not. Some were not interested and rejected your offers even as they grew. You then sued. You brought a federal antitrust action against a number of longtime landowners in Solano County and accused them of price fixing, of collusion. And so there have been settlements, but that case is still working its way through the federal bankruptcy court. These are your future neighbors. What were you thinking?
It was hard, but I think just to put it into perspective, we wanted to purchase, so we've purchased property from about 600 people at about 3 times market value. In many cases, they are able to stay on the properties for 15 years for free. We pay their property taxes. There's a reason why everyone sold. It's a life-changing amount of money.
Everyone didn't sell.
Most people sold. And then there were about 200 people that we wanted to buy from and who didn't want to sell. And the litigation the price-fixing litigation only involves about a couple of dozen people. So 180 people didn't want to sell, and we said, of course, we respect that. It only involved a small number of people where we had actual evidence that they wanted to sell. They just got together and formed this price-fixing ring. And I think the last thing I'll say on that is it was a hard decision, but we have laws on the books that protect against that kind of conduct. And we'll leave it to the courts to figure it out.
What is the law that says if you want my property and I don't want to sell it to you, you drag me to court? What law is that?
There's no law like that, and as I said, for 180 people who said that, we actually have pretty good relationships with many of them. What we have a law against is the law that says if the 6 gas companies, the gas stations in town get together and say that they're going to charge $50 for gas, then there's price-fixing laws against that. And we had actual emails and actual text messages between landowners saying, hey, we want to sell to these guys, but if we all get together and agree on a higher price, we can get more money.
So we're going to let the courts litigate, and we'll continue our conversation. You can't, you have the land now. The next step is to persuade the voters of Solano County that this is a good idea, right? So you can't just pop up your city now that you have the land. You have to amend the county growth ordinance, which is very strict, has been around since the 80s, has been reaffirmed a number of times by the voters. You, again, depending on who you talk to, you're a controversial figure in Solano County. How do you convince voters, how do you persuade voters to give you a green light for this project? I've seen polls, you've seen polls. Some of them that some of your opponents cite, are like 70% against, right? There's unhappiness. There's intrigue in this room. There's a lot of unhappiness in the region, and there's also a lot of curiosity. So it's very mixed.
I think on that poll, I would ask who paid for that poll, and then you see the results. But I think that the point of it is I don't need to. It's not. Me convincing residents in the county that this is a good idea is a very, very small number, very, very small amount of what we're doing. Because we have so many supporters who are third, fourth, fifth generation Solano County residents. We have nurses and doctors and teachers. We now have elected officials. We have business owners. We have discussions with labor. We have discussions with countless stakeholders. And we've now gotten to the point where people are evangelizing to their neighbors and dispelling all of this misinformation that some of the no-growth or degrowth forces in the county have spread out. That our role at this point is just to communicate the facts. And we have a really broad coalition of people right now who are doing that. And so the fact that I'm from outside is not that relevant, because at this point, it's an idea that's taken on a whole life of its own, and there's support for it from across the county.
Yeah, and we're almost out of time. We are sort of out of time here. Is there anything you would do differently? Did you make any mistakes in this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that look, I mean, at a high level, if you're building a company of this scale, of course, you're going to make many mistakes along the way. I think that the main thing that I wish landed differently about the announcement is we were preparing to introduce this in the fall of last year. And we wanted to come and brief the local elected officials, brief the local community leaders, and then brief the community and talk about it. In preparation for that, the story leaked, and the Times broke the story, which kind of changed the narrative. I think the other thing that I wished happened is I wished many of the politicians in the area had kept a much more open mind about it. I think we knew that this would be a different idea, a very big thing, a very big change. And so we understood that people would come and say, you know, I'm really skeptical. There's 150 reasons why this won't work, but I'm going to keep an open mind, and I'm going to look at the plan and then judge it on its merits. And instead of what happened with some of the politicians is they just came against it instinctively. And I think that's very short-sighted. And it's particularly short-sighted when this idea is by far the most credible solution to fix many of the issues that have plagued the county and plagued the region for the last 40 years. And they have no solutions.
So those elected officials, I do want to say for the record, many of them say they tried over and over to figure out who you were and to find you and to ask, what are you doing? We know that there were suspicions, there were foreign interests trying to encircle Travis Air Force Base. There were mayors, there were county commissioners, there were members of Congress, all of whom had a remarkably similar experience, which was not knowing who you were. So that's on you. Well,
not quite, because we have a body in America that deals with basically when there's a concern about foreign investment. Treasury has a department that deals with this. Treasury called us and said, hey, can you show us that this is not the Chinese? Show them like this. And then with regards to the secrecy of the acquisitions, I think that whole thing has been used as an excuse by people who've hated any kind of economic development or growth for the last 30 years as a kind of a smokescreen, because it's the same people who take their kids to Disney World every year, and they love Disney World. How did Disney World get built? The Disney company came out, set up a few shell companies, they acquired the land, and then they announced it, and it was controversial for a year, and today it's the happiest place in America. So I think it's dishonest for anyone who takes their kids to Disney World and has happy family pictures of grandpa with their kids to then be in the press criticizing us about secret acquisitions. I mean, when...
Is that what you're building? Is it?
No, it's not.
Disneyland?
It's not. But we are going to build one of the happiest communities in America. I guarantee that. I'll be living there in 30 years. And I think it is dishonest, because it's the same when Stanford or any of the universities in the area is buying a property. They don't tell someone who they are. You buy the property and then you announce it. Same way that many of the companies here on the stage will do R&D, and they will introduce a product, and they'll have a keynote, and they'll come and tell the world about it. What matters is that after we announced it, we did the most extensive community engagement ever. I met with hundreds of residents one-on-one. Show me a developer where the CEO of the company, when someone emails the generic inbox, contact@californiaforever.com, they get an email from the CEO saying, I want to go for coffee and hear about how we make this great for you. And that's why now there's thousands and tens of thousands of people in the county who are behind it. We needed to get 13,000 signatures for the initiative. We got over 20,000 signatures of people who put their name on it.
So it is going to be up to the voters of Solano County whether to approve or reject stage one of California Forever. Clearly, as Solano County turns, we will be back and we'll be following this very closely. Jan Sramek, thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen.
All right.